the woman who helped change America. Imagine climbing onto a city bus after a long day of work. You're tired, your feet ache, and all you want is to get home. Then a stranger tells you to stand up, not because you've done anything wrong, but simply because of the color of your skin. Most people know Rosa Parks as the woman who refused to give up her bus seat. But that single moment was only one chapter in a life filled with courage, determination, and quiet strength. This is the story of Rosa Parks, a child born into segregation. Rosa Louise Macaulay was born on February 4, 1913, in. Her parents were James Macaulay, a carpenter, and Leona Macaulay, a teacher who believed education could open doors that prejudice tried to keep closed. When Rosa was still very young, her parents separated. She and her younger brother moved with their mother to a farm near to live with their grandparents. Life in the American South was harsh for black families. Segregation, laws separating black and white people, controlled nearly every part of daily life. There were separate schools, separate waiting rooms, separate drinking fountains, separate restaurants, and separate seats on buses. Black children often walked long distances to school, while white children rode school buses paid for with public money. Rosa watched buses filled with smiling white students drive past her as she walked through rain, heat, and cold. Never forgot that feeling. Learning courage at home. Rosa's grandparents taught her to stand tall no matter what others believed about her. Grandfather sometimes stayed awake all night with a shotgun nearby because racist groups, including the terrorized black communities. Young Rosa remembered hearing horses outside at night and wondering whether violent men would attack their home. Although she was afraid, she also learned something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what is right despite being afraid. Those childhood lessons shaped her entire life. Rosa attended schools for black children, where teachers worked hard despite having very few supplies. She loved reading and learning. Eventually, she enrolled at the laboratory school. Attending school was a privilege because many black children had to leave school early to work. Before Rosa could graduate, her grandmother became seriously ill. Later, her mother also fell sick. Rosa left school to care for them. Many people would have accepted that as the end of their education. Rosa did not. Years later, while working full-time, she returned and earned her high school diploma in 1933. At that time, very few black women in the South completed high school. It was one of her proudest achievements. Meeting Raymond Parks. In 1932, Rosa married. Raymond was a barber, but he was also deeply involved in the struggle for equal rights. He encouraged Rosa to continue her education and supported her dreams. Together, they became active in efforts to fight racial injustice. Their marriage was built on mutual respect, courage, and shared purpose. Joining the fight for equality. During the 1940s, Rosa served as secretary for the Montgomery chapter, working closely with. Work involved documenting cases of discrimination, helping victims seek justice, and organizing efforts to challenge unfair laws. Quietly investigated assaults against black citizens, including crimes that many white authorities ignored. By the time the world heard her name, Rosa Parks had already spent years working for civil rights. Was not simply a tired woman on a bus. Was an experienced activist who understood exactly how unfair segregation was. City buses in Montgomery had strict segregation rules. Black passengers paid their fare at the front door, then often had to step off and re-enter through the back door. Sometimes drivers pulled away before they could get back on, leaving them stranded after paying. The front rows were reserved for white passengers. Black passengers sat in the back. If the white section filled up, black passengers could be ordered to surrender their seats. Refusing could lead to arrest. One bus driver had previously forced Rosa off his bus years earlier. Remembered him. On the evening of December 1, 1955, Rosa finished work as a seamstress at a department store. She boarded a city bus driven by James Blake, paid her fare, and sat in the first row of the section designated for black passengers. As more white passengers boarded, the white section became full. Blake demanded that 4 black passengers surrender their seats. 3 stood up. Rosa remained seated. Was not sitting in a whites-only section. Simply refused to give up her lawful seat because of her race. The driver threatened to call the police. Rosa calmly replied that he could do so. Soon, officers boarded the bus. They arrested her. Later explained that she was not physically tired. Was tired of giving in. The arrest that changed history. News of Rosa's arrest spread quickly through Montgomery. Civil rights leaders realized this case could challenge bus segregation. D. Nixon contacted local ministers, including a young pastor named. Together, they organized a one-day protest. Thousands of black citizens refused to ride city buses. The protest was so successful that organizers decided to continue. What began as one day became 381 days. The Montgomery bus boycott. The boycott became one of the greatest nonviolent protests in American history. People walked miles to work. Some shared rides. Churches organized transportation. Taxi drivers charged reduced fares. Many elderly people walked through rain and heat rather than support segregation. The city expected the protest to fail. Instead, it grew stronger. Martin Luther King Jr. emerged as a national leader during the boycott. But the movement belonged to thousands of ordinary people willing to sacrifice for justice. Facing threats by boycotting dangerous places. Homes were bombed. Leaders received death threats. Many participants lost jobs. Rosa herself struggled financially. Anne Raymond eventually left Montgomery because finding work became difficult. Still, neither regretted standing for what was right. The boycott lasted more than a year. Finally, they ruled that segregation on Montgomery buses violated the Constitution. On December 21, 1956, black and white passengers legally rode together on Montgomery buses. It was a historic victory. One quiet act of courage had helped inspire a movement that transformed America. In 1957, Rosa and Raymond moved too. Life remained difficult. Struggled to find stable work for several years. Eventually, she worked for, serving on his staff for more than 20 years. Continued speaking about justice, voting rights, education, and equality. Never stopped working for civil rights. As years passed, Rosa Parks became known around the world. Schools invited her to speak. Universities awarded honorary degrees. Young people looked to her as proof that one person can make a difference. Always reminded audiences that change comes from ordinary people making extraordinary choices. Rosa received many honors during her lifetime. Among them were the and the. Became one of America's most respected citizens. She remained humble. Often said she was simply doing what she believed was right. Even in old age, Rosa continued encouraging young people to fight injustice peacefully. She established organizations promoting education and leadership. She believed each generation had a responsibility to make the world more fair than it had found it. Rosa Parks died on October 24, 2005, at the age of 92 in Detroit. People across the United States mourned her passing. Became the first woman in American history to lie in honor in the rotunda of the. Thousands came to pay their respects. Lasting legacy. Today, Rosa Parks is remembered not because she shouted the loudest, but because she stood firm when it mattered most. The boycott helped launch the modern American civil rights movement. That movement led to landmark laws protecting voting rights and ending legal segregation. Story reminds us that history is often changed not only by presidents or generals, but by ordinary people who refuse to accept injustice. A quiet seamstress with unwavering dignity showed the world that one brave decision can inspire millions. More than 70 years after that famous bus ride, Rosa Parks remains a symbol of courage, equality, dignity, and hope. Message still echoes today.